the CertLab hangout with the instructors. We're still waiting for Brewster to arrive, and and all of you who are in the church world, you certainly know about meetings. I know I was texting back and forth with somebody who's in communications at a church, and he was saying, "Oh, I'm going to try to get to listen to all of this, but we just have so many meetings." And I know that some churches go with Tuesdays, some churches go with Wednesdays, but we're certainly glad that you got to tune in and listen to this, even if it was on the recording part. But by all means, we're very, very happy for you to be listening to us. And Certification Lab, which is this really cool project that Center for Church Communications and Church Marketing Sucks has put together, is really dedicated to raising the level nationally for directors of communications. And we want to make sure that the people who are working in communications in the church world, that they certainly understand and know what works, what doesn't work, and how to be better at your job. And I've been really blessed to get to know Phil Battle and Jerry True and also Stephen Brewster. And why don't we, for those people who really don't know us all that well, Phil, why don't you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe give us a little glimpse of what's happening at Westridge Church this weekend.
Hey, I am Phil Battle. I'm the creative arts pastor at Westridge Church here in Atlanta, Georgia. I've been in this role for about 2 years. Started off as communications director for about 4 years here, and just love what I get to do. Love being a part of this group and this team as part of the CertLab. And I'll wait on what we're doing until later to tease that, because I'll share that later. Yeah.
I mean, it's huge. I mean, if there's one reason to stay tuned into all of this, just to hear from Phil, and I just get a text saying that Brewster can't get in. So Chuck, can you look after that on the back end? He's our producer on Church Marketing Sucks. Jerry, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Jerry True, and I'm the communication arts pastor at Oak Hills Church. I'm serving here for about 8 years in the role of communication arts pastor, and serving with a multi-site church, 7 locations, 1 internationally, and just helping the church in the area of communication, and from weekend service planning to social media to whatever communication methods and models that we're trying to build to help a church of 10,000, but 400 attending at one of our campuses, all the way to 5,000 at another campus. So keeping the ideas in mind, trying to work through the communication models for a small church field, even up to a large church field. So that's what I'm doing here at Oak Hills Church.
Absolutely. Wow, that's cool. And that's really, really important that the people who have been coming to our Cert Labs, we've had them all across the country. I mean, some are from quite small churches and some are from quite large churches. And what we found is that there's a common thread and theme that runs through all of them. And no matter whether you're in a small ministry or a large, there's some really cool trending things that we want to talk about. Just to give you a little bit about me, I'm Mark McDonald, and I am on the board of Center for Church Communications. And I've been tasked with this whole idea of certification and how do we raise the bar nationally for people who work in church communications. I have Be Known for Something, which is a brand strategy agency for churches, and we walk churches through a process to figure out what they should be known for in a community in order to break through and reach the community for Christ. And I think that the highlight of my year as I speak at conferences is to be able to do these Cert Labs and get to know these other guys that we're going to talk to today. So let's kick it off a little bit, because I want this to be not just a promotion for Certification Lab, which, by the way, there is one coming up in January in Atlanta, and it's a different one than we normally do. Normally our Cert Lab, it covers what we say, we hope that everyone kind of has a beginning understanding of communications, but as soon as they're getting into that intermediate stage, we want them to come to CertLab But we have the very first certification lab advanced coming up, and if you go to, I've got to look, cfcclabs.org/certification, cfcclabs.org/certification, or if you go to Church Marketing Stocks and click on our ad, you'll be able to scroll down and see that this certification lab in January 17th to the 19th, it's totally different, and it's actually starting where we leave off in the main certification lab, so that it goes into more advanced. And some of the things that we talk about, topics like must-have church communication systems, understanding your audience, branding matters everywhere, handling conflict, editing, how to say more with less, earning a seat at the leadership table, relating well with healthy relationships, social media 2.0. That's going to be a huge one. I know that we have lots and lots of questions on social media. Communication persona development, the essentials of weekly rhythm in church communications. Oh my goodness, how are we going to do all of this in 2.5 days? The cycle of creativity, exercising diplomacy, website analytics, tools of the trades, hacks and tips, and 4 levels of church communication leadership. That's a mouthful. Okay, Phil, say as many as you can say back. Now, do you have any, I guess that, what are some tips that, for somebody that's listening, whether they're in the beginning or intermediate or even in the advanced, I mean, you do things extremely well at Westridge. Give us some tips for some people that are listening.
Yeah, one of the things that it's a simple truth that I discovered early on, but something I think that I usually, as a leader of our team, think through all the time is, creativity is not usually just some incredible idea that people thought of out of nowhere. It can often come from answering a question of what's the problem we're trying to solve. And so the 2 questions I ask almost every day are, what are the problems we're trying to solve, and what are the barriers to solving that problem? So creativity kind of takes root within that, and by creating that box for that. So for us, what's going on, what Mark, you mentioned earlier is that was the start to some of the more creative things that we've done here right now for Christmas at Westridge. Is we were hearing from a lot of people in our community that they didn't know where our church was. We're in a spot where there's a lot of people that are 15-20 minutes away but never drive the direction of our campus. So we were trying to think through, okay, that's a problem we need to solve, and what are some barriers to that? How can we address that? So this year, we know one of the things that everybody loves to do during Christmas time is they love to go around and see Christmas lights, and they love to do that as part of their family tradition, or they'll drive around to different neighborhoods. And so our hope this year is we're going to be starting off actually tomorrow for the first 3 weekends of the month of December. We're going to be going through and creating a Christmas light experience for Northwest Atlanta, and so it's going to be a free experience for their friends and family. We're covering the whole front of our building with lights and creating just a very memorable experience for people to share with their friends. And so just from the stats and from the research we've done, I mean, we could very well have over 1,000 cars a night through the 12 nights that we're doing this. And so our prayer for that is that we hope that it will expose our church to people that have never known how to get here or never had a reason to, and we'll be able to get them exposed to our church and hopefully get them back. So that all started as part of just basically just figuring out what's the barrier to this, or what's the problem we're trying to solve, and what's the barrier to that, and how can we solve that? So it's like I said, it's very rare for the most creative things for us to happen out of nowhere. It's usually something that we're trying to solve in the midst of our ministry.
Very cool. And you probably saw that you started stuttering. You were hearing a weird feedback, and I'm not sure. I think that was you, Brewster. Can you just try muting? You know how to do that? Okay, it's gone, so I don't know who it was. Brewster, thank you for coming, now that I've told you to be muted. He's not going to listen.
Do I
Hello?
unmute now or not?
Oh, you're weirdly... Yes, you can unmute, Stephen. But you're frozen. There we go.
All right, I think it's working now.
Yay! Isn't it great to have technology that we can actually do this? You're in Tennessee, and Bill's in Georgia, and Jerry's in Texas, and I'm in North Carolina. And Church Marketing Sucks. The producers in South Carolina. I mean, we're all over the place. It's amazing we can do this. Okay, well, what we've been doing, Brewster, I know that you just got out of a meeting. Would you like to share with us all the things you accomplished in that meeting?
Not a lot, actually, so it was pretty boring.
Well, no, what we want you to do, just tell us a little bit about yourself for those people that have tuned in that don't know who you are. I can't imagine.
My name's Steve, and I work on the creative team at Crosspoint Church in Nashville. We're a multi-site church. We have 7 locations, about 7,500 people each weekend worship with us, and our team is responsible for communications, experience, worship, pretty much anything you feel, see, or experience while you're at a Crosspoint service on the weekend. Our team's involved with that.
That's awesome. Well, I guess that we were talking a little bit about Certification Lab Advanced that's coming up in January, and Phil was kind of giving a little bit of a peek inside of what he's doing for Christmas coming up. And Jerry, what's going on in your life, and do you have a quick encompassing tip for anyone who's tuned in? Oh, you're muted.
There we go. So yeah, lately we've been working, having been challenged by Phil and even Stephen on some of the processes they use in order to enhance giving tools to their teams to use in order to get work requests in. We've been working through that process with basically a new team that has been built over the last 6 months at Oak Hills Church in our communication department. So in doing that, one of the things that we've lately been working through is this idea of pursuing the criticism. Instead of trying to get everybody telling us what they like about what we've created, we're really becoming more focused on what do you not like about what we've created, because what we've realized is that in using what we've created, if they tell us what they don't like, it gives us the best opportunity to improve upon what we're creating. If we're only looking for pats on the back and trying to feel good about what we've created, we could really miss the mark, and ultimately people won't use what we've created that we really are hoping is going to help them. And so we're really working to go after that criticism and pulling out of people, what do you not like about what we.
But Jerry, there are people that have tuned in that are thinking, well, we're trying to dial that down because we get all the criticism. So what are you talking about?
Well, I'm talking about specifically identifying 6 to 8 people within your staff who you trust the opinion and you invite them into a collaborative conversation where they test what you're creating. And then you look to them to get their opinions. You pull out from them their opinions on what they really don't like about what you're creating. And so this is before it rolls out to the entire church, where you have maybe 20 or 30 staff members upset because you're expecting them to use something that you've created, but they haven't had the opportunity to collaborate. So you start with a smaller pool of people that you're collaborating with, trying to make sure that you're addressing the primary concerns that most people would have. So that once you start that broader introduction of what you've created to more people, you've addressed most of the primary issues so that there's less criticism and problems in the rollout once you start to implement the change. So it's more of a strategy of implementing for success long term, rather than just rolling out to everybody and then being deluged with multiple people upset and concerned or criticizing, and then you feel like a complete failure. And that's half the problem. Half the problem is setting aside the feelings associated with what you created, because it's easy to make what we create a part of our identity of who we are. And so it's also that part of recognizing that what we create is not necessarily determine our value. Our identity in Christ, our value is already predetermined. What we're trying to do is find the best solution. Again, it comes back to what Phil was saying earlier. What's the problem we're trying to solve? Being able to communicate that well with that group of people that are testing it, and then inviting them to say, do you see the same problem? So that's what I would say.
Well, and what I'm hearing is that this is a controlled setting. This isn't just from the pulpit. Anyone who has a criticism of what we're doing.
Right. No, absolutely not. No, it's testing, and primarily I'm dealing with just staff right now, and then it may roll out to some volunteers who might use the system. We engage that conversation after the staff. 8 or 10 staff have been a part of that process, and it's really about enhancing that collaborative conversation with key stakeholders so that you're ready to do a broader rollout and be more assured of what the success is going to be, maybe.
Yeah, that's good. Now, the thing is that a lot of people that are listening in are probably thinking, I mean, I don't even know whether I can talk to the key stakeholders, and that really brings up something that we talk about really quite a bit in CertLab is in order for you to be an effective church communicator, you need to have a seat at the table and be on that leadership team. I guess, Brewster, talk to me a little bit about how easy was it for you to get onto the team? How would you try to propel people to actually have a voice on a leadership team? And you're muted there.
Yeah, I think the best way to get a voice in any conversation really is to focus on a couple things. First, on a leadership team, focus on what the leadership team cares about. Care about what they care about, and work really hard to accomplish those goals. And when you do, all of a sudden, you'll start to earn a ton of equity. And then the second thing is control what you can control. There's a lot of factors and variables that are out of your control, completely out of your control. So many times we get caught up, consumed by the things that we can't control, and we end up ignoring the things that we actually have control over that actually could create momentum for us and move us forward.
Oh, that's so good, because oftentimes, and I know as I talk to communicators, I hear quickly, yeah, but I can't do that, and I can't do this, and this person keeps me from doing whatever I want to do, and I mean, how easy it is. I guess it's just human nature for us to hate anyone who feels like they're holding us back. And yet there are so many things that you can control around you, and you really just have to grab hold of some of those things and get started. So Brewster, let's start though. So of the things you can control, what are the things that you would recommend for the average church to start controlling quite strongly?
Well, okay, so obviously there's multiple levels of leadership that we all get the opportunity to try to steward. The first one is yourself. So what is your effort that you're bringing? What is the creativity that you're bringing? What are the disciplines that you're bringing? You get to control that. What are the tools that you have at your disposal? Figure out how to maximize and steward those tools so that you're being a great steward of that. And then the responsibilities that you've been given. Maybe you've only been given the responsibility of a portion of the job that you really want to have. Kill that. Make it amazing. Become so valuable inside of the organization in doing what you've been asked to do that the rest of the organization can't help but include you in other things. You get to control a lot of those variables, most of those variables actually, and it all starts with you. Your attitude, your effort, your approach, the lenses that you're going to pass the work that you do through.
That's good. And you know what's interesting is that what I continually say is the fact that a lot of people say, "Well, I want to do more. I want success. I want to try this. I want to." They just keep holding me back, and I always say, build on the wins. Make sure that you're winning at something, and then build on those wins, because a lot of people just they struggle and they talk about all the things that they want to do and all the things that they see as all the things that are out of their control, that are holding them back. But it's like, okay, the things that you're talking about, I mean, that's where you got to start having some wins, and people who work around you will start seeing those wins, and you should start talking about those wins,
Yeah.
and then people will entrust more to you.
And sadly, we've actually lowered the bar. So it really starts with do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. Like, if you start there, you're probably beating 80% of the workforce that you're working with. So make a commitment, do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it with excellence, do it with integrity, and then watch the dominoes start to fall, and all of a sudden you have a lot of momentum, your voice is heard, your voice is felt, and then you get to be on whatever that team is that you really wanted to be on. But again, if you're going to spend more of your time complaining about the things that are out of your control rather than dominating the things that are in your control, you're never going to get that.
Yeah, and no one wants to have a complainer at the table, so why would a leadership table want you to be on it if you're just seen as a complainer?
And there's not many leaders that I know that aren't looking for somebody who they can really count on and they can really trust and they can believe in, that they can count as a rock star. So most of the time, if you're not sitting on a team that you desire to be on, it probably starts with self-awareness.
Wow, that's good. Phil, I know that I've heard you talk about this before, so I know that you're just chomping at the bit to jump in. So unmute your mic and then jump in.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
I mean, he covered so much of it. I think a lot of it is finding out what your pastor and what your lead team values and understand that, and then add value where you can add value. I mean, I think it goes back to solving problems. I mean, people, leaders want to see people on your team solving problems, not just bringing problems. And so when you can solve problems like that, or when you can come up with solutions with an open hand, instead of just saying, hey, it needs to be this way and this is the only way to do it, instead of saying, hey, here's something that I know is a concern for our church, here's something I know is a concern of you, for your pastor, whoever it is, and here's some options on maybe how we can solve this. That's an open-handed way to say, hey, I'm on our team. Like, I'm a church-first person. I know, like, for remaking our creative team here, I mean, we've hired 8 people in the last in my time here of just reshifting our team. The number one thing was not skill. It was not talent. It was not experience. It was that are they a church first person? Because I want them to care just as much about our church as a whole and what's happening in our student ministry and kids ministry and in any area that's not just their direct niche. I want them to care just as much about that as they care about their own thing.
Okay,
so that they can share the wins.
Let's slow down a little bit. Okay, you keep saying church first. And I know every person who works for a church goes, well, I put church first. I mean, obviously, because I'm here all the time and I begrudgingly come in every day. So talk to me about what you look for in a church first person.
I want somebody that is not just only talking about building their own thing. You know, if the video guy just keeps talking about how we should be doing more videos, we should be spending more money on gear, or social media, if everybody's just complaining about whatever they're discontent about, that's not a church first person. A church first person celebrates the wins, they encourage others, they're thinking outside of themselves, and then they're owning what they do first, because they know what they do is contributing to the success of their church. So that's the kind of people we need on teams. I mean, that there's never going to be a lack of need for that. And so when your pastor knows they care just as much, and that you care just as much about the success of your church and growth of your church, as they think you care about just your own thing, and they're going to trust you with more, and they're going to care about that more.
That's really good, yeah. Jerry. When you think about hiring people, and you are in the throes of hiring, and you've been going through a year of hiring. So talk to me a little bit about what you look for. What is the thing that you look for in somebody?
It really, the primary place centers around the attitude of the person, a can-do spirit. You know, there's a big difference in seeking after the criticism that we talked about a little bit earlier to get people to critically think about what you're producing. But then when you have a team member that is criticizing other people, in other words, it's not that they're looking for the best solution. Now they're looking for reasons why they shouldn't do something for someone else. that becomes a big problem and a big inhibitor to making progress. So what we're looking for is people who really have a spirit of wanting to make the best of the gifts that God has given them in order to enable others to use their gifts well for what God has entrusted to their care. So that's the kind of attitude and the kind of person that we're really looking to have on the team, and been fortunate and blessed to see that kind of spirit in the people that have been coming to Oak Hills Church to work.
Yeah, what a shame it is when we realize that people who are in ministers who are doing it all themselves and not actually raising up other people around them. I mean, that's the true calling of a minister, is to disciple and to raise up followers. And it's not, I guess that in my mind, sometimes we think of discipleship as, okay, raising up somebody who can lead someone to Christ. Well, yes, but it's also raising them up to use the talents and the gifts that God's given them. How do you encourage that on your team? Oh, you're muted.
Again. Well, part of it comes down to helping people understand what is theirs to own, what is theirs to be a decision authority in, and where do they have input authority. So knowing what their decision authority is helps them know what they need to release to God, because it's not theirs to own. And what they're responsible for is giving their best thinking and their best ideas, their best input into a solution, and not focusing on, because if we begin to think of people from the perspective of they come with emotions around this idea and this need that they see because they take seriously what God's entrusted to their care. If we understand it's not our decision to make, but it's our opportunity to influence them and to help them move forward, we take a totally different perspective in how we handle that situation.
And Brewster, I know you say something all the time, and I always quote it, and I'm sure I've changed it. So, can you think of what I'm thinking about? No, of course not. It's some people are thank God for the things that I complain about, or what is it that you always say?
We talk to our team all the time about the idea that the things that we're complaining about, other churches are praying for the opportunity they get to do it at some point.
Okay, say that one more time because I have to remember it.
Okay. The things that we're complaining about that are opportunities are probably things that other churches are praying that they get to do at some point. And I think we lose sight of it a lot of times just because of the pace, and it's ministry isn't easy. If it was easy, every church would be blowing up and killing it. And so there's just times that you have to remember that you get to do this, you don't have to do it. And when you get to do this, you look at opportunities as what they are, opportunities, not just opportunities to complain.
Oh, that's so good. Well, and I know that there are people that are listening in right now and they're going, okay, I know I'm supposed to sit at the leadership table, I'm supposed to be a leader, blah, 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 but I have so much work that I have to do, and I need some tips for how do I get the day-to-day stuff done. And I know that we get a lot of questions about social media, and so let's take a little bit of a turn. But first, I'm going to remind you again that CertLab Advanced is coming up in January 17th and 19th. If you go to Church Marketing Sucks blog and click on our link there, or if you go to cfcclabs.org/certification, you can find a complete listing of everything that we deal with. Now, this is an advanced course, and you know what? I think what we've done in the past is that anyone who's gone through the regular certification lab, when they come to the advanced course, they get 50% off, which is $600 off. And we've set up a code that, just for listening to this today, that if you use the code that I'm going to tell you at the end, then you'll be able to get $600 off of that one. And then we also want you to sign up for, we have in April, we're in San Antonio. We're going to be there with Jerry, and we're going to get to see the ministry that he works in and and their churches. And then we're going to be over with Brewster in Nashville in July 17th to the 19th. So sign up for these things. I know some of you still have some budget left for 2015 that you can use for this, or you can wait until January 1st or 2nd to sign up for it. So that's why we're here. We're the instructing team that you have 2.5 days with us. You can ask us any questions you want. We have a very interactive approach, and it's a lab feel so that you're not just hearing lectures, you're actually doing some stuff. Okay, so let's jump back to social media. Who wants to chime in with some really cool tips or good tips that churches are either doing right or wrong or should be doing?
Well, I'll mention one thing that we're challenging ourselves with right now. I mean, we have a consistent strategy of just trying to make sure that social media doesn't just become a bullhorn of promotion, but becomes a place for us to tell our story and to connect with the stories of others. So that should be a foundation by now. I mean, that it's always a challenge and a tension, but that should be something we all know. But one of the things that we're really wrestling with is the idea of, as an audience grows or as your church grows, it's really easy to just think about whatever your messaging is, of how you just want everything to, all your energy is just spent on trying to reach the 10,000 people that are your fans, or the 200, or whatever it is. And so I just kind of put the challenge out for our team of, what if we did for one what we wish we could do for all? And recently we did a night of worship at our church a couple months ago, and we just asked people, hey, what song are you hoping to hear? And we got some great feedback, some great songs that people were loving to hear, but we also had some that were like, hey, this is an opportunity for us to do something special for them, that we can't do this for every person that comments, but we picked like 3 or 4 people that just picked like a random song that we would never do. But we got our worship guys together and our video guy and just spent an hour just doing fun responses and just engaging one-to-one instead of one to everyone. And what was cool about that was it took a little bit of our time, but it was more of a value thing of, we want to make that person's day. We want to make them have an experience with us as a team and us as a church that bonds them to our church and lets them know we care about them, personally. We don't just care about them as a number, we care about them. So it was so cool to see the feedback of just like, man, this made my day, or this was, thank you so much, this is so cool, and they're sharing it with their friends and stuff. And it really, at the end of the day, it took an hour of us and a little bit of thought. But what was cool is, more than anything, those people are never going to forget that time when the church posted at them and they did a song song request just for them, delivered to them. So I mean, I think that's something that anybody can do, and it's not hard. It's not bound by the quality you can have. It's just bound by the time that you're saying, hey, I want to commit to this. And we've seen that pay off, and something that I think we're just challenged to continue to do, to make sure that we can create memorable moments for our audience, so that they know us not just as a big church, but as people that care about them.
That's awesome. And I mean, imagine that the church actually listens to their congregation. I mean, that's just a crazy thought. At first, I thought you were going to say that you had a service and only one person came, but
no, that hasn't happened yet.
Jerry, what when it comes to social media, are there some things that you are cautious of with your church?
Well, I wouldn't say, there's not much that we're cautious about. Our goal is to really, it's about the inspiration and the conversation. It's about generating and asking questions. So our goal is to shape the things that we're saying, the questions that we're asking. All of our posts, we want to try to bring a question into that initiates a response, and then we want to respond. Our goal is to respond within 30 minutes of anything that comes into a response to it, that we have some kind of response back, whether that's a like, whether that's an actual typing a response back, a physical response. So of the 8,400 followers that we have, I typically get about 150 to 200 notifications a day on my phone. And I have 2 other people that are watching it as well. So if I'm in a meeting and I can't respond to it, then someone else can respond to it. So we take that conversation very seriously so that people know. And we've had people send us messages that their electricity's been turned off and they need help, and we've been able to immediately get that to someone who handles our benevolence to really reach out and have that dialogue and that conversation around how we can help them get their electricity back on. So it just really core, tangible needs like that, all the way from someone whose son recently passed away and died, and they needed someone to call them And so we were able to get that to one of our community ministers to give them a call and pray with them. So a lot of really heartfelt things are going to be shared on social media. And if we're not listening to that, people translate into that, you really don't care about me. And so the goal is I guess if we're to be cautious, it's cautious about not responding when someone reaches out to us.
Wow, and you know, there are people that are listening that are saying right now, "Boys, I wish I had my congregation interact with me." Well, be careful what you wish for, right?
That's exactly right. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it is not uncommon for, 50 notifications to come in 1 hour on my phone, and it gets mind-numbing at times. But the reality is every one of those notifications says something about a connection and relationship to the kingdom work that God is doing through Oak Hills Church, and that elevates that conversation. That this is an important notification.
Yeah, that's really good. I guess that the big thing that I take away from that is to make sure that people know you're listening and that you're getting back to them as fast as possible. There's so many times that I post on somebody's wall and I never hear back from them, but that could just be me. Brewster, talk to me. I know that you get a ton of followers on social media, so talk to me. How does your church try to get more followers from their congregation, and how do you get them involved and engaged with social media?
Yes, that's a great question. Probably we don't focus a whole lot of time or effort on gaining followers. We're much more concerned with the message that we're trying to share and creating content that's extremely engaging for people. So I couldn't even tell you how many people are following on any of our accounts, because we're not really focused on the number of people we're following. We've been blessed with, I think we have a pretty good following, but what we do try to do is we really try to focus on encouraging, equipping, informing, and entertaining the people that follow our accounts, so that we can give more value to them than we are asking them to do things. And so a lot like what Jerry said is, we're trying to create engagement. That's really all that we're looking to do, and find ways to get people to want to engage with their church. And some of that is proactive. We go on the offensive and we go start conversations, and obviously we're going to respond to every person who leaves a message to us, but creating content that shares who we are, shares what we're about, and then is engaging and entices people to try to respond.
Yeah, and that's so key. I mean, if you have the right content, people will follow. So if you know your people, and we heard that clearly through Jerry and through Phil, I mean, if you know the people in your church and you're trying to meet their needs and you do it through social media, you will get followers. However, I would also encourage you that if you don't have a lot of followers, you're not doing the right content. Like, you really have to pull back and start thinking, okay, so how do I do this better? And the easiest way is to follow one of us, follow the people who actually, the other churches that have a lot of followers. Watch what type of content they're doing. They're always audience centric. I mean, they're thinking about the needs and the goals of each person that is in their church, and then also in their broader community, so that they're able to have shareable posts, because the shareable posts are better than the ones that are just liked. Well, oh my goodness, the time just flies with you guys. When we all get together for CertLab, it's one of those things that is like old home week, if that's even a thing anymore. Homecoming, is that a better term? I don't know.
What are you talking about?
So, I mean, here we are. We're also we're coming very close to Christmas, and we're looking into the new year. Any tips or tricks or hacks or anything that you would recommend for people who are listening that are fully immersed in church communications and they're looking towards the new year? What would you recommend to them? Bill, why don't you start?
Where I'd start is actually, it's not a communications tip. It's more of a value that I think is important for all of us, and that's self-awareness. And I think there's some great tools out there that help you to get to know how you are wired, get to know your strengths, your weaknesses. And so I've learned from our pastor, Brian, of just this rhythm of at the beginning of every year doing some assessments that help you to get to know yourself and get to know those things about you that are going to help you succeed, or the things that could hold you back. So there's some incredible ones out there. The ones that I always do every year are Myers-Briggs, and there's a lot of different ways you can take that, but that lets you know if you're an introvert or an extrovert, are you a thinker, are you a feeler, and what that means for how you are and how you interact with others. But one of my favorites is called Leading from Your Strengths. It's from a site called Ministry Insights. And you fill out like what feels like maybe 15, 20 questions, and you're thinking, how in the world could they ever know anything about me after filling out that? And then you read the report that they give you, and then you realize all the good and the awful things about yourself. But it's a brilliant tool for how you work in a ministry context, but also in teams. And so you get to know more of those things that you need, but also that the things that are going to hold you back. And so it's a great tool for you to know, to have an objective view of yourself, to really evaluate that. But I will tell you, it's a game changer if you're a leader or if you have anybody on your team, even a key volunteer. I mean, that's something that my leadership went to a different level once I decided I need to learn how my team learns, and I need to learn how I can find that button for everybody that helps to take them to the next level. And so by doing that, I learned, hey, this is how this person learns best, or here's some things that if I say it this way, they're not going to be able to take it well, or all those things. So I can't encourage those enough. I mean, it's well worth a half day just to invest in that and learn about yourself, because it can change the way you approach your leadership and change the way you lead your ministry. So Myers-Briggs, Leading from Your Strengths. There's Strengths Finder is another great one. Just tons of good ones out there. But I would just encourage you as you begin your next year, kick that off the right way and do that.
Even before you start your next year, between Christmas and New Year's, there's always a couple of down days. You're sitting around the Christmas tree, family's having fun in front of you. Just download Strength Finder's book, and it gives you a code to go onto the website and be able to do an online test just to figure out who you are. Really, really good. Jerry, what about you?
Well, after you've begun to work on those strengths, I guess where I would begin to focus in on is, and identifying those strengths, is I'd work on how do you maximize the use of your database to automate your systems and processes, in other words, to free up time by leveraging the power of your church database to automate some of the processes that you're doing. So that's one of the things that we've been really working on over the last year and a half, is trying to find ways to make the attender closer to the minister and not having any bridge between the middle of them, of someone having to, for them to call, that someone has to say, well, I'll call your minister and let him know that you'd like to have him call you. If we could simplify that, and we use the database to do that, looking for ways to do that with your database, because it can be a powerful tool to connect people in a real tangible ways.
That's good. Yeah, that's really good. Okay, Brewster, what would you do in 2016, or what would you recommend everyone that's listening to do?
Well, based on what those two guys said, I'm just going to show up to the CertLab thing and keep trying to learn what they're doing, because they're really smart, and I'm probably not as smart as them. So I guess I need to take some personality profiles and do a lot of leadership development.
That's not true. You realize we're all going.
I actually think that's 100% true. There's no joke in that, or false humility. I mean, I really am big on making sure that we are crystallizing vision and mission on what we're trying to accomplish. And so I think first of the year is a great time to kind of recalibrate a little bit. What is your team doing? Why are you doing it? What do you need to stop doing? What stopped working a year ago and you haven't realized it yet? Just asking some of those hard questions. Yeah, I think that usually we try to start the year off doing something like that.
Wow. Well, when we first started, I said, okay, we're going to go about 40-45 minutes, and that's all. Well, we're already past that, and we certainly appreciate every person that's tuned in. we know that it is difficult what you're doing. You're juggling an awful lot of stuff. You're trying to say no to people with love. You're trying to say yes to other people and actually get the work done. There's a lot of you that are a one-man shop. There's a lot of you that have just very, very small teams, and there is so much stuff that you can be doing through websites and content and branding and leadership. I hope that this has been a good start for your coming year, but also I can't urge you enough to jump on and be part of the CertLabs. The CertLabs that are coming up in April and July are in San Antonio and Nashville, but then the closest one to us is in January, the middle of January. It's in Atlanta, and it's our advanced stuff, and this was the type of content that we're talking about right now is I mean, it felt more advanced than what we normally do in our regular Cert Labs. But what I would strongly urge you to figure out is what is the main ribbon of story that has to go through all of your communications so that you are known for something in your community, but also that the people who come to your congregation, they know the benefit of coming to that congregation. Your brand has to be attached to one major concept. And our entire Cert Lab helps, we come alongside of you and we help you figure out all the steps, and it's very practical. This is not a huge group of people where we just lecture and let you guys wing it. We actually we keep them small for the reason that we want this to be a very high-end approach to coming alongside of you and figuring out what church communication means to you in your local area. Well, the code, when you register to get half off the advanced lab, that is hangout. So all you have to do is just write in hangout for the discount code, and that gives you half off the price of the advanced lab that's coming up January 17th and 19th in Atlanta. That'll give you $600 off. And if you want to go into San Antonio and Nashville, and we have a special deal on right now for signing up so early. Well, thank you, Jerry, Phil, and Stephen. Once again, you've infused some incredible wisdom because you guys live it every day, and it shows in the fruit of the church that each one of you work at. So thank you.